Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. Today we are previewing the Brisbane Lions and everything they have to offer for our SuperCoach sides in 2017. This is where we take a bit of a look at all the clubs and not necessarily your obvious picks and going deep into the drafties, but certainly just some guys that should be on your radar, perhaps offering a bit of value, maybe missed a few games last year, potential breakouts, etc. You know, it's only in December, so it's worth just discussing them, putting a few on the radar. The Brisbane Lions, they don't have a stack, I must say. I guess, given they have been rebuilding, they've given a lot of games to young guys, which I do think they've drafted pretty well in recent years, but a lot of those guys have been taller key forwards like Hipwood and Shackey, who aren't going to offer us much in Supercoach land for some time, and your likes of, you know, Matheson and Keys and Jansen and things like that. They're good, promising players, but they don't offer us too much for Supercoach because they're a rebuilding club. They've been given opportunity and sort of played you 15 to 20 games and average, you know, around your 60 to 75. So it just sort of places them in an awkward position. And, you know, maybe if they're a successful club, they might be a guy who only got 1 or 2 games and you could see them really having a massive impact. But I don't think the Lions have a stack to offer just for that reason, but one man that I'm absolutely about for Supercoach next year is Dane Beams. I personally think he's an absolute lock. 432,000. Now I know what you're thinking, the bloke can't stay out in the park, his knees are shot. Now I'll certainly wear that point, it's a reasonable possibility, but at 432k he has to be considered, and if he gets through pre-season alright, plays a couple of games, looks the goods in round one team, you basically have to take the risk on him. You've got to roll the dice for the potential upside. And the upside is enormous. I mean, his last 4 averages, aside from last year where he only played the 2 games, averaged 79.5, hence the price tag. 2012, he had a massive year. That's where he burst on the scene, averaged 122.9, 102.4. Then his last 2 years, the Brisbane Lions, after joining the club, 115.5, 113.4. So he's moved in seamlessly to the Brisbane Lions midfield, taken the number 1 mantle there, been great alongside the likes of Zorko, Rockcliffe, previously Hanley, who's obviously moved on. But, you know, Beams, he's an absolute gun. I don't think he probably gets enough recognition down here in Victoria. I think he's had some unbelievable footy, and because he's up there in a side that hasn't had the greatest seasons, you know, he has had outstanding seasons. So just so consistent, wins the inside ball, kicks goals, genuine leader, exactly what we want in Supercoach. And he's not just a guy who's going to have you know, average a nice old 105 to 110, as those numbers suggest. He's more than capable of going very, very big. So I think that's exactly why he's worth taking that risk. At 432,000, we should be licking our lips at that prospect. A lot of water to go under the bridge until we can fully lock him in. Of course, he's got to prove his worth as far as those knee issues are concerned and show that he is capable of playing consistent footy, because mind you, it's not just last year that he had his troubles. Going on 2012 as well, where he played 21 games. Since then, he's only played 7, 19 and 16. So a couple of those seasons for premiums that we want to be playing every week, certainly playing, you know, at least 20. They are somewhat concerning numbers, but as we always say, if the risk is there, then what's our reward? And I think the reward is as big as it can come for a bloke like Beams at that sort of price tag, if I haven't drummed that in already. So certainly keep him front and centre of your watch list. Now, second bloke, Stefan Martin, we're going to have a bit of a look at. Really interesting case study is Stefan. He priced at 481,000, around about that mark. Now, he dropped down a bit last year after having some really good form in 2014 and 15. Now, he went from pretty much a nobody and just seemingly a list clogger to averaging 111.7 in 2014 and proving that that was no fluke in 2015, averaging 110.8. Now, he had to put up with Leuenberger at certain times, but largely that didn't affect him because Leuenberger wasn't there and he was also playing forward, which is half the reason why he ended up at the Bombers. But last year he encountered a couple of problems and just perhaps had a slightly poorer season. Now, he averaged 89, I think it was, around the 89 mark. Now, that's obviously a fair drop-off, but it does offer us with, some value potentially. So you might be asking, why did he drop off like that? Well, I know that he had a little bit of impact from Trent West and Archie Smith. Now, you look at their stats alone, not much. West only played the 4 games. He won't be there next year. Averaged 21 hitouts. And the rookie Archie Smith got his debut from Martin missing later in the year. Played 3 games. Averaged 23 hitouts. Now, they're not big game numbers. Solid average of hitouts, which shows when they did play, they certainly shared the ruck duties. But what is interesting is when you look at Martin's season, he averaged just a touch under 90, 20 odd points down from what we're used to. He had a really flat patch through the middle of the season. Rounds 9 to 12, he just went off the boil. Scored 48, 40, 69, 56. Absolutely awful. His hit-out numbers went right down. Now I was looking at, Trent West. Okay, he only played 4 games. What games were they? Round 9, 10, 11 and 12. Exact same 4 games that coincided with Martin really struggling. Now, you can look at it simply and say West, took 82 hitouts off Martin. You can look at it pretty simply like that. Also, some guys just like to be the sole ruck. It's just something about it. They're the main man. They get the more stoppages. Their role's much more simple. It suits them. I think Martin is one of those guys. As for Smith, he came into the side late, played rounds 19, 20 and 21. Now, Martin missed 19 and 20, hence he got the opportunity there, Smith. But when they did both play in the same game in round 21, Martin only delivered 70 points. So all those suggest that he is definitely a man who prefers to be the main man in the ruck. Now, will he get that opportunity in 2017? That's what we've got to have a look at, because I think he has risk associated with him, and the fact that Sandilands is probably going to be a guy we heavily look at since he's hovering in the low 300,000 mark. But Martin, if you're looking to perhaps line up a Gawn or Goldstein alongside maybe a cheaper guy who could average well over 105 for a nice little price, Martin could be your man. Now, you got to identify, is Smith going to really try and help out and get a fair bit of the amount of ruck work? Because at the moment, I couldn't see anyone on that list that's going to really rival Martin for that spot. Josh Walker does a little bit of rucking, but it's mainly as a forward, doing forward 50 ruck work and maybe the odd chop out for Stefan. But overall, he certainly must be considered. From a statistical point of view, he averaged 5 less hitouts than last year, but that was the same amount of hitouts as he averaged in 2014 when he had a good year. So I don't think we can read a stack into that, but certainly he may have just simply had a poorer season. His possessions dropped off. I think he averaged about 17, down from 22, and he is a guy that likes to get a lot of the ball as far as the ruckman goes. Gets a stack of the pill, so gets more of his points from roaming around the ground, taking a lot of marks and taking a lot of possession, as opposed to maybe your tap ruckman, where, Goldstein and Gawn, they win plenty of the ball, obviously, but they win a lot of points also for their effective and two-advantage hitouts. So, a couple of things to have a look at there. I think while some of his ruck time and sharing the load was interrupted at times, I think Martin also may have just dropped off the boil ever so slightly. So sometimes it's a statistical thing and a positional thing. Other times you just have poorer seasons, and it could be a combination of both there. So he's one to keep on your radar and see how that ruck setup's going to work there at the Lions for next season. Now, there probably isn't too much. They were the main guys. Of course, Zorko lost his forward eligibility. That hurts. It probably rules him out. I know he's a great averager, but there are much safer options. I'd be looking more to his teammate in Tom Rockcliffe. He averaged 111, just showed that he was still capable with scores of 204, 159, 154 last year. He had an absolute rollercoaster season last year. Of course, I don't have to tell you that be careful of his body. He's had an array of injuries over his time. Some unlucky, some questionable with his actual body, so just take note of that. But he is an absolute SuperCoach pig. He just scores and scores and scores when he's in the side playing pure midfield. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know there. Now, of course, Pierce Hanley exited. Of course, there's going to be opportunity for guys to play midfield. They've drafted well, young guys. There could be the odd one or two that step up. Just looking at this year's draft crop, Hugh McCluggage is the obvious one that people are going to ask. I think he's potentially able to be picked as a forward as well as a midfielder, so hence it makes him quite relative. He'll be priced, I would imagine, around the low 200s, maybe 210. Now, I've seen Hugh play a lot of footy, obviously working at the Courier in Ballarat. Hugh was a North Ballarat Rebel. I covered him for most of the year, seen him up close and personal. Now, he's an absolute jet. I'm surprised he didn't go at number 1, but he was right in the thick of it when it came down to it. He uses poise, he's a great user of the ball, can win his own ball, is more of an outside user, but can certainly win his own ball, and I think more of that will come as he bulks up. But he is a goal-kicking midfielder, which is rare, and he is certainly as good as they come in traffic, and just has that ability to look as though he has more time than he actually does, and create space where there seems to be none. Scott Pendlebury-like. So where do I see Hugh playing next year? I'll probably see him more so on a half-forward flank, mainly because he is skinny. He is still quite raw. He's a raw talent, plenty of talent there. But as far as being thrown into the thick of it, of a AFL standard midfield, he'll certainly roll through there, but I wouldn't have thought he'd be like your Ollie Wines type who just goes in there immediately. I'm not sure his body's up to it yet, but of course we'll have to wait and see through a pre-season how he goes there. But he's certainly one that'll feature in our SuperCoach sides down the track. His teammate Jared Berry, the Lions picked him up. I think it was picked 16 or 17 in the draft. So two mates going to the same club would be great for them. But Berry is the opposite as far as physical comes. He's pretty well built. He's probably ready to go. He's had his injury troubles last year, but was touted as a top 5, top 10 pick in his underage year, his bottom age year I should say. So he is maybe a guy that could also get a lot of opportunity, and he's priced a little less. So two guys to potentially have a look at. Midfield bulls, they're both great players. There'll be ones to watch down the track. Certainly keep your eye out and track their pre-season in regards to whether they're going to be an option for us in 2017. But nonetheless, that's about all I've got for the Lions. Not too many names, but a few that are certainly worth a good old discussion. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel, that'd be much appreciated. Give it a like, give me any thoughts or comments you've got on the Brisbane Lions, or if I've missed someone, if you think that Shorty, why aren't you talking about this guy, feel free to let me know. Always interested to hear what you guys have to say, and always good to get a bit of discussion going, especially as we work our way into the thick of the footy pre-season. So hit that subscribe button and I'll catch you guys soon.